If you're planning on buying any cards from TCG Player, make sure you use our affiliate link right here in the description of our video to help support the channel. It's the best way to do it and it's free. Looking for PTGO codes? Poton Store has all the latest sets and promos instantly delivered to your email. You can use Tablemon code when checking out for 5% off. Card Market is Europe's largest online marketplace for Pokemon cards. Whether you're looking for sealed product or singles, vintage or the latest sets, just follow the link in the description to find what you need. This video is sponsored by the Pokemon TCG deck building website PokemonCard.io. Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. So today, day 2 of Salt Lake City is happening, and I'm recording this on Thursday before leaving for Salt Lake City. I leave tomorrow, and it's been a while since I felt this lost in a format. It feels like the format is very diverse, and like all of the matchups are very close. Therefore, you should play a deck that you're very confident in. The issue is, if you've been watching my videos, like, that really portrays my feelings towards the metagame. I just feel like the metagame is in a really awkward spot where a lot of decks, if you don't get turn 1 battle VIP pass, you're really gonna struggle. Yeah, and if you do, you're fine, right? But having to rely so much on that card, like, I'm trying to get away from that with some of my deck choices, which you'll see in a little bit. But yeah, Battle VIP Pass is such a frustratingly good bad card. That's how I put it. Like, it's such a good card, but it's also so bad that you have to rely on it, and also that if you don't get it, then you're playing a 56 card deck, you know? So that led me to, and my experience with Regi and whatnot led me to this list. All right, I'm not fully committed to this list, to this deck rather. I am to this list. I really like how this list ends up playing out. And it contains 4 gift energy. Yeah, so unfortunately I can't showcase the list here, but it is one of my top choices for Salt Lake City right now. I feel like the online metagame definitely is not really showcasing, or not true to what you can expect at Salt Lake City, because of the fact that you can't play Regis right now effectively, right? Most Regi decks are playing 1 or sometimes 2 gift energy, but I decided that I would commit to 4. All right, and let me explain this. Yeah, you also notice 3 twin energy as well. So obviously Regigigas is really good, and you need 3 of them against Mew VMAX. That was my mistake when going into Peoria. I did not account for the lost city enough. I did not take it seriously enough. I ended up losing a very important round against Ram Persig playing Mew VMAX because I only had 2 Regis, and he also got like the perfect setup every time, but that's beside the point. So all of my games, yeah, in general with Regigigas, it's just so frustrating that sometimes you just don't get to play, you know, because you didn't get a supporter, right? Or your Dragon's Horde just ended up leaving you blank, you know? But with 4 gift energy, now you have that consistency on top of the 4 Professor's Research and on top of the 4 Marnies. And that means you also, like, sacrificing a Pokemon is okay, you know, because then the gift energy will gift you extra cards. And in the middle of the game, right, you'll almost always have a gift energy attached to whichever Pokemon's attacking. So if they knock it out, then you get a fresh new hand, right? If they don't knock it out, then you didn't lose the energies, then you don't have to go out of your way to replenish your bench and repower up, right? So I feel like there's a lot of merit to that. Makes you basically Roxanne proof, makes you basically Marnie proof as well, because you'll almost always just have the gift energy so early out that you'll have access to it. And you also get to play in a defensive way, in the sense that if your active has a gift energy and you're holding a gift energy to attach for turn, then you know your opponent will try to knock out one of your Regis that you have 2 copies of or whatever, or there's 1 copy in the discard already, they'll try to target down that. Like, you can also attach the gift energy to that Regi and be like, okay, if you go out of your way to boss that Regi, fair, right? You'll force me to need an ordinary rod, but I will get extra cards out of it. And if you don't, then I'll just get the extra cards anyway. So it's a sort of win-win, and obviously Speed Energy gives you the 2 cards immediately, but it can only be attached to Regieleki. Gift Energy works on every Pokemon. It doesn't give you the cards immediately, but the format is very aggressive, so it should be handing you a lot of cards a lot of the time. And if your opponent doesn't have exactly boss that turn, if they do Marnie, Research, or anything else, then you will be getting extra cards. And if you're not, then that means they're not attacking you, which is also good news, you know? So it's a win-win-win-win wherever you see it. And I think that's also another thing I underestimated for Peoria, the power of Gift Energy. And so, without the Speed Energies, that makes your attack with a Lecky way less likely, right? But in this list, since you only have the 4 auras to cover the attack cost of the others, you're going to be focusing a lot more on Regigigas, which we already play 3 copies of for the Mew VMAX matchup or any Lost City shenanigans. Therefore, right, it only made sense to focus on attacking on Regigigas, right? Because then you don't care about any energies that you do find or not. It's all about the twin energy, right? So I added an extra one. And so you focus on attacking with Regigigas, which is also the easier Regi to replenish because you have played 3 copies of. And eventually you'll find your auras to suit your other attackers. So this is where I'm at with Regis. It's definitely my #1 choice for Salt Lake City. But I'm a little scared in falling, like, in getting trapped in this, like, Regigigas loop, if you will, where I know the deck's so good and I insist on playing it, but then it just doesn't work out for me. Clearly at Worlds it worked out for me. At Peoria it definitely didn't. But I'm hoping that this revamp list will make a big difference. You know, the other addition is the trekking shoes, so it's like there's a lot more consistency in this list. If you were not to play the trekking shoes, then you could put in back a Cynthia, you could put in a 3rd Ultra Ball, and perhaps a 2nd Hisuian Heavy Ball would not be a bad choice, or you could just play an extra boss or 2 Cynthias or something. So consistency for the most part, yeah. But the trekking shoes do have some merit. I'm not the biggest fan. It could just be 2 Pokestop, 1 Cynthia. That's the big change, right? And they're also consistency for consistency, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. But for now, I'm gonna keep with the tracking shoes. And yeah, this is my #1 choice, but let me show you my other choices. So as I mentioned, I'm having a lot of trouble finding a deck I'm comfortable with, and I do really like Giratina VSTAR as a deck. I love how every turn, or every game rather, you'll have the option of attacking with either Cramorant or Sableye or Giratina VSTAR, or the VSTAR attack, or Radiant Greninja, or Snorlax, and in some cases Drapion as well. So I really like having that humongous versatility to formulate game-winning plans and make it much harder for your opponent to adapt to what you're trying to do, right? So I really, really love that. However, every time you start Giratina, you start to question life, and you start to question why you are playing this deck. And it feels like every time you don't start Comfey, the games can be very complicated. I'm not playing Battle VIP Pass in this list. I mean, I might end up playing it or not. That doesn't change what the deck's trying to do, right? And this deck has a little bit more merit playing the Battle VIP Path because then they're immediate loss on cards, which is fine. So I like the versatility of this list, but I don't know, it's questionable. It's questionable. I feel like I don't draw very hot in general. So playing this list where you're more likely to not start with a good Pokemon, aka Comfey, right? That's the only good starter you have. Every other Pokemon you start with in your starting hand, you don't like seeing that, and that's something that I'm not particularly a fan of when going into a regional, right? Knowing that most of the time you're not gonna have a comfortable start, which is not ideal. Or when you compare that to Regis, right? You can Regigate. Regigigas is a little sturdier and it's your main attacker. It's the easiest Pokemon to attack with. Regieleki is the easiest to retreat in a way, I guess. Can do a little bit of chip damage, so every Regi has its merit, right? But here, if you start with Drapion and you're not against Mew, if you start with Lumineon, if you start with Zigzagoon, you start with Snorlax, you're already dreading life. If you start anything but Comfey, it gets really awkward. So this is why this is my #2-ish deck. Next up, I'm also considering this Hisuian Zoroark VSTAR, which most or all of its merit goes to my friend Kevin from Las Vegas, whom I've been working with, I've been coaching, and he's very set on this deck. He's very comfortable. He plays the deck really well, and the Hisuian Decidueye, of course, helps against the Miltank. It's why it's there. But overall, Like this deck is very powerful, right? Absolutely, it's very powerful. It does what it wants to do very, very well and very consistently too. The one big but for me in this deck in particular is the fact that it does one thing and one thing only, right? So every time your opponent wants to prepare or is considering how to prepare for your deck, they only need to figure out like how to stop you from finding either energy or the V-Star, right? Or the basic, whatever. But that's their only thing they need to prepare for. That's the only thing you do. Attack with your big attack, and that is it. So that linearity is very welcome and very comfortable in a sense, but also can potentially be very hindering in your limited amount of options to deal with the various different threats that you have, right? So that's what's stopping me from playing Hisuian Zoroark. I do really like the list, and I find the card, like I have it right here, a Hisuian Zoroark card, just extremely like visually appealing. I love the art, I love the card, I love the concept of the card. But just, I don't know. Yeah, I like decks that only rely on what you want to do, but not having any sort of adaptability feels a little awkward to me. So it's why it's a number 3 pick right now. And then finally we have Palkia VSTAR, which is obviously, as usual, a very powerful deck, a very threatening deck. It's what my friends keep telling me that I should play. It's the best deck. But I mean, going second means you have a very high chance of using Battle VIP Pass. You also have like every Pokemon other than Manaphy that you start with, you're like, okay, right, this is fine. Unlike the Comfey decks. I don't know. I feel like I'm a little biased in a negative way towards Palkia, because I put all my Pokemon eggs in the Palkia basket, and Palkia, I mean, in the end, it was my mistake at NAIC and then bad pricing that cost me potential points at both Milwaukee and NAIC. But I don't know, some of the losses I had with Palkia is dead drying. It left a really bad taste in my mouth. Obviously the deck is fantastic and it's very good, but I don't know. It's not my... I don't know. I feel like it's definitely the bias, right? Because this deck, it didn't cost me, I cost myself, but I could have earned 2 travel awards with this deck and ended up earning 0 travel awards with it. So that's the one thing stopping me from like committing to this deck again. It's like, I recognize its power. It's obviously a very good deck and a very powerful deck, but I'm not so sure I can fully commit to it at this point. We'll see. Yeah, I like, from now until when I make my bag, I'd love to narrow down this to 2 decks only, and only travel with 2 decks. But I'm so unsure. Like I said in the beginning, I've never felt so unsure in a format going into a tournament, having all these options where they're all fantastic decks, but I also think they all suck in a lot of ways, and I'm just not comfortable playing any of them. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up deciding to go with. But yeah, hopefully you're seeing this as my champion deck video of sorts after Salt Lake City. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.